My name's Wes Hunting. I would say I'm an abstract expressionist using glass as my medium. It's the way I approach it. My work is about color and light and a constant energy that's changing because of how light affects glass. You know, with the glass, you never know what's going to happen. It's got a mind of its own. It's a moving material. You can't touch it while you're working it. You know, it's 2,000 degrees. You can't set it down and say, well, I'm going to go to lunch and come back, or I'm going to set this up on the shelf and look at it for a while. And you can't. It's immediate. It has to be like, bam. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, in the late 50s, early 60s. And I always did a lot of drawings. I do these really weird drawings of like spaceships and army men and tanks and race cars. And so, you know, I always had that background. Then my parents got me interested in, you know, like you should take some drawing lessons. And I went to the Cleveland Art Institute when I was 11 or 12. And took some summer courses there for kids and just decided that that's what I wanted to do. I mean, that's when I first realized that this is what I want to do. I want to be an artist or use my creativity, I should say, you know, in some way. So from then, I graduated from high school. I worked at a steel mill for like 2 years, earning money because I wanted to go to college. And so from there, I decided I wanted to go to school for art. And I couldn't afford to go to like one of the big schools, so I decided on Kent State. I really was getting interested in taking painting and drawing courses, which I was doing pretty much full-time and not going to the prerequisites like I was supposed to. And on the weekends, I worked at this place called Hale Homestead, early American village. They basically had ye old smocks and ye old blacksmith and ye old everything, you know, weird hats, and tourists would come through, kind of like one of those Renaissance fairs, but it was full-time. So I was mowing lawns there on the weekends. They actually had a glass blower there, and one day he got in a big argument with the guy that ran the homestead, and he just walked off. This is on a Saturday in the middle of tourist season. I'm up there mowing the lawn on the hill, and the owner of the place comes out, he goes, you know, Hunting, get down here and help this guy, you know. So, and I did, and I tried it a few times, and I just decided that this is what I wanted to do. I mean, I really just had this, like, God, this is an amazing material. Well, as luck would have it, Kent State was one of 3 schools at the time that actually taught glass blowing and had a course in it. And I went to class there. Took the first class and I never looked back. It was just like, you know, this is the most amazing stuff I've ever worked with. I blew off all my other classes. I was flunking out, but I was in the glass shop working every day. We used to, Henry would kill me if he knew this, but we used to break in the window on the side and sneak in so we could blow glass all night, you know. And we just were, there was this incredible energy and incredible passion about it that I just fell in love with that, and plus the material and the fire. I mean, who doesn't like fire, right? Right when I first got out of Kent State, I graduated, my wife and I at the time moved to Chicago. Finally found a place, moved in, set it up, and it was the first hot shop in Chicago. And then we started doing the art fairs, and and then it got really big. I mean, we drive down to Florida for like 2 weeks, and then come back and make glass, and then go to Texas, and we're like caravanning around like gypsies, you know, selling the work. And I started making some money off that, and you know, I was keeping the shop afloat, and things are going good. And then one day I was doing a street fair in Chicago, actually, and this car stops, and this woman gets out and she's like, I'm so-and-so from Melchor's Galleries. One of the biggest galleries in Chicago. We'd love to handle your work. And I'm like, wow, and she kind of took me under the wing, and she started selling my work like crazy. It just started through the roof, After a while, the Chicago started really, I went into this whole state of depression because it was noisy. I couldn't focus, We had people coming in and out of the studio all the time, and I really had to get away from that. So at that point, my wife got pregnant with my son, which was a great thing. And I was just tired of Chicago. I didn't want to raise him there because we were right in the middle of the downtown area. And I was lucky enough to find this place in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, and changed my whole life. It's quiet here, beautiful scenery everywhere, lakes, open areas of water. I can have 2 stupid big dogs running around, I mean, what more do you need in life, Princeton, Wisconsin is a wonderful place to live. I kind of just stumbled into it, and some of the buildings are, still from 100 years ago, and it's a step back in time, It's very interesting, I consider myself very Midwestern. I've been raised and traveled in pretty much every state in the area in the Midwest, This is it's the heartland of the United States, I think it's what the United States is all about, I have this love-hate relationship with glass, the material. I mean, I'm not necessarily consider myself a control freak, but I've pretty much given my life to trying to control glass. Glass is a material that does not want to do what you want it to do, and there's no way anyone will have complete control over it. So what you have to learn being a glass artist is, you start out fighting it all the time and trying to control it and force it into these shapes. And the shapes always look forced. And as you work with it 10, 15, 20 years, you start to understand the more that you move with the material and let it control you more than you control it, let it do what it wants to do, the better the pieces turn out. Start understanding how you fit in with the material more than how the material fits in with you. I'll start out with a drawing of what we want to make, and I'll start trying to make that shape, and then something happens, like the shape will start changing, but instead of fighting that, I'll just go, oh, that's interesting. I think glass is probably one of the most difficult medium to work with. And it's hot, and it's very physical, and I just like all those aspects. I mean, working with it is like extremely intense, It's, for one thing, you can't touch it. It's 2,000 degrees, big flames. It's heavy, it's hot, you're running around, you're not just sitting there, you're like running back and forth, and it's fun, it's like dance. I love that aspect of it. There's nothing like it, It's the closest thing I can say. It's like if they had lava like honey, that's what it's working with. My arm's getting a little hot there. Look at what we do for glass. I was doing a lot of oil painting and drawing and pastels and working a lot of different two-dimensional media. And I started actually trying to paint with glass. And that was by, at first I started taking flat sheets and crushing up glass and what they call fusing now. And that just wasn't doing it for me. I wanted more thickness and dimension in it. So I started painting with glass, molten glass, directly on pieces. And that was really exciting because, as a painter, I like the aspect you have transparent colors, you have opaque colors, and another color that no one has in any other media, and that's clear. Complete transparency, And that's one thing that I use a lot in my work, is these little windows you'll see if you study my pieces closely. There'll be little areas where it's completely clear and you can see on the inside, which means you have to work with the inside and, use that as part of it, and colors from the other side coming through, and very dimensional, I mean, you can get lost in there if you look long enough. In my work, I'm really interested in microcosms. You see the stars and the planets at night, and you know that there's this whole world out there, and if you look at it, it's very interesting. There's all these little elements that tie into one big one. I try to convey that in my work. Also, microscopic or, worlds. You look at a leaf and you look at all the little elements that it took to make that leaf. The patterns on wood. I look around and I see patterns everywhere, And that's kind of what I look for in my work. So I can go out in the woods and study things, and the older I get, the more I just want to enjoy the world, the earth. It's an incredible place. I mean, I want to study every little inch of it, When you view one of my pieces, I hope that people can get involved with it, I mean, they're microcosms. I mean, you can walk by and you go, oh, those are really, but then you're like, wait a minute, what's that? And then you get in and you look at the detail. I mean, there's incredible detail that you can only do with glass. You combine that through the depth and the layering and, the three-dimensionality of this painting and the light coming through. It changes throughout the whole day. I want the viewer to just be completely drawn in and immersed in this beautiful sea of color and patterns and shapes and changing light. And that's basically what I've been trying to do all my life.
I think his virtues as an artist is probably that no matter what he's doing, he tries not to compromise the artistic sense of his work. He just loves art and loves making things so much that it just pretty much engulfs him as a human being.
Humility is very important, in life, I think, in general. I think once you start believing that you're great, it stops a lot of where you're looking for in your work and in yourself. I mean, when I say to myself, oh, that's the greatest piece I ever did, then I might as well just quit. Where do you go from there? I've been working in glass for 36 years, and I still have not found what I'm looking for. There's still something out there that I want to make, and I'm still searching for it every day. I want to make something out of glass that no one's ever done before. Very nice, keep going. I think life is all about passion, every aspect of it. And if you're passionate about anything, you'll do it. There's a lot of people that want to make artistic statements. I think the difference between me and them is I think a lot of people gave up. They said, well, this is too hard, I can't do this. I never even thought about that, I've always had this feeling that this is what I have to do. It's not what I want to do, it's just something that I have to do. I have a vision that I have to make an object. It's my vision, and I'll take it to the day I die, It's what I want to do. Ready? Do it. And I am so lucky to do what I do. And there's not a day in the morning that I don't go into that shop and go, oh, I don't want to be here. You know, I'm in there all the time. I love it. I mean, it's just absolutely, it's an insane thing to do. You know, I just love it. You know?